We are now recording.
Okay, we will call the Design Review Subcommittee meeting of Wednesday, October 27th order. I think since I think we have some new ones with their HPP application, so I'll read a little intro here. The purpose of the subcommittee is to provide direction, insight, concerns, and options to the applicant on how the project can best comply with the city design guidelines and/or city policies. The subcommittee is not an approving body. They make recommendations to the Planning Commission and Zoning Administrator regarding a project's compliance with city design guidelines. Each of the subcommittee members will provide input and suggest recommendations to the applicant based upon written city design guidelines and/or city policies. The subcommittee will not design the project for the applicant, nor will the members always agree on the best course of action. The applicant can then assess the input and incorporate any changes accordingly, with the understanding that the subcommittee is simply a recommending body. Decisions to approve, deny, or modify a project are made by the Planning Commission, City Council, or the Zoning Administrator with input and recommendations from the subcommittee and staff. And the two members here are both Planning Commissioners and will be on the dais for the Planning Commission hearing. So we have approval of minutes.
I motion to approve the minutes.
I will second it. We'll take a roll call vote.
Aye.
Aye, and Crandall is aye, so it passes 2-0.
Should we mention that Camp isn't here?
And we will have roll call. Well, let's see, they didn't have roll call on our agenda today. Stephanie, would you?
We normally don't do roll call.
I know, but
so
we want
just
to acknowledge that
sure.
Steve Camp is not in attendance today.
Okay, I can certainly go ahead and note that in the notes.
Thank you very much. Architectural review of the following items. This is the second review of Master Project 21158 Frontera Memory Care and Assisted Living Facility, APN 679-021-05. Stephanie Rojas is the staff member representing this project. And if you would like to take the floor. And welcome to all of you, and look forward to working with you.
Yes. So thank you, Chair Crandall and members of the DRC. So staff's presentation will be very brief today. As you may recall, this was first presented to the Design Review Subcommittee on August 25th. So this is an opportunity for the applicant and their team to present what they've been working on for the past 2 months. Let me just see. A couple of things to note with the overall project. When it was first presented during the first review, staff did, overall the subcommittee was in support of the overall project design. They found that it was consistent with the design guidelines. They overall, at that time, determined that the project was an improvement over the previously approved project that was approved at the site, referred to as Frontera, as Artist Memory Care. However, the overall, comments and suggestions during that meeting were really conveyed to the applicant to improve the overall architectural merit of the project. So there were different suggestions and different things that were conveyed to the applicant to just improve the overall process, look at different things that may have not been considered previously. So since then, the applicant has completed their community outreach. They'll be able to provide more details on that. There were specific comments that were made as far as the property line edge, directly abutting the Fair Harbor Condominium Association. So I do have this rendering up here. So that is one particular area that they did take a look at, and they did spruce up the landscaping, especially on this property line edge. But overall, the project design is more or less very similar to what was originally presented during the first review. They did provide comments that directly responds to those comments and suggestions that were made during the last DRC meeting, and those responses to comments are provided in your staff report within Table 1. And one last thing I forgot to mention. One thing that they did also highlight was that Not so much facing the street, but along the east elevation, they did remove one unit and they did pull back the building. So I went ahead and just highlighted it here because I know it's very easy to miss. So this is just a comparison between that segment of the building that was revised between the first and second review. So that concludes staff's presentation. I want to turn it over to Mark Mcguire, the applicant's representative. We have a whole lot of folks in attendance today, so for the benefit of the public that may be listening to the recording, if you could just introduce your full team as well as their role in the project.
Yeah, thank you very much, Stephanie. So let me just first jump in and who's sitting around the table. This is Pastor Mark Ambrose of Pacific Coast Church. They're the property owners that South Bay is under contract with to purchase the property and implement the project. This is Tony Elias Calles, senior member of the church and on the church board and part of the team that's been vetting prospective buyers. Was involved both when the artist project came through and now this project. Dan Dell is our landscape architect. Peter Petralia is the architect for the project. Bill Crowell with South Bay. Josh, is it a slightly different entity that is the operating entity?
Yeah, West Bay.
And your last name, I'm sorry.
Johnson.
Josh Johnson. And he's a resident of San Juan, is that right?
Sure.
Okay. And me. So I think that's our team. If I missed anyone, let me know. And again, thanks. Since late August when we were here, Stephanie then abandoned us and went around the world or something fun. And we rolled up our sleeves and had our outreach meetings, the same outreach program that we did with the artist project. We met with it was by Zoom this time, but with the Fair Harbor HOA at their board meeting. The Master HOA, which oversees all of Marblehead Inland, and then we reached out to the about 55, 60 homes within a 300-foot perimeter of the project, both the property owners and the residents by mail, to have a community open house at the church. And those meetings went really well from our perspective in the sense that the townhome HOA was appreciative of the design of the project. The chair, for example, was very appreciative of the new elevation along Frontera as compared to the artist project. He felt like that was kind of a side yard treatment with an 8-foot fence and really likes how this one looked. They were interested, and we were interested, especially having gotten comments from the last design review subcommittee meeting, if we could beef up the landscaping. They were interested in enhancing the landscaping along that landscape easement, which is in our fee property, but they have a landscape easement over it. That's essentially on the Oliverde side of the wall, if you will.
Fair Harbor has that?
Fair Harbor has
Has
a
a landscape
landscape easement.
under
It
property.
Yeah, and it allows for that monument sign, it allows for the 6-foot wall that's in place, it allows for landscaping. And if you look at old aerials of that Oliverde landscape frontage, there have been times where they have street trees and a fair amount of landscaping, and now there essentially are no street trees on that side. They're interested in doing new street trees with us and any other enhancements, and Dan can talk about what we're proposing. I'm confident that we're going to settle on the plans that we've submitted, but we do have to work through them. The chairman of the board was on a trip until the end of October, and they're bringing in a new landscape maintenance crew that they wanted to get some input. They wanted to allow the new landscape firm to have some input on are these trees that we are happy with from a maintenance standpoint. But we're prepared to present the landscape plans and commit to the landscape plans that we have now, and we'll firm that up before we get to the planning commission, but that's going to be solid. If there's any changes, of course, we'll note those at the planning commission.
One thing that we did do at the southern end of that, in that view corridor, is eliminate some trees or pull them apart so that we can maintain that view corridor. because that was one of the concerns as well, that the trees would
At
get
the
too
bend.
at the bend where our parking lot is, so that
Yeah.
the trees won't block their view.
Okay.
So that was
Good
the
idea.
other concern.
Good idea.
Yeah, the trees basically just go alongside where there's building structure,
Yeah,
about
I mean,
2/3 of
hopefully
the
it's
site.
reflected by the-
And then,
Yeah.
once we hit the corner of the building, we basically stop the trees and just have shrubs there so that you can see over our parking lot more
Yeah,
easily.
or smaller ones just to screen the fence, and then you'll see over it, so people on, and they're higher than us too. The people that do have the view corridor through there,
Yeah.
their units are a little higher, and from the second floor is where their view is. So we've listened to them and maintained that.
And also, they don't like pine trees, so those went away. So,
Stealing my thunder, thanks, Bill.
And this will be,
we're on the same page there.
Yeah, okay.
this will be reviewed by the landscape consultant for the city.
That's correct,
In
yeah.
more detail. We look at it in concept, but he looks at the details.
Absolutely. And
We did
so-
submit those drawings, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
So that meeting went very, very well, and we're in discussions with them on the enhanced landscaping along that Oliverde side. We then had a meeting with the master HOA, and they were, again, very, very receptive and complimentary of the project. And their focus, same as the last time, is really how it elevates in relation to the single-family homes above. And they were pleased that we actually start our elevation at about 1 foot lower than the artist project, and happy with the design also on Frontera. But for the most part, the key for them is that the top ridge elevation is at 225, and the lowest pad elevation is at 237. So the lowest pad elevation is 12 feet higher than the highest roof elevation for the single-family home. So they just essentially look right over the site. So that was and they're very supportive of the use, just as they were the last time. The open house at the church was lightly attended, but the woman that was most engaged is a resident of the townhomes that's nearest the project, and you talk about the view corridor. She's one of the ones that really is concerned about that little window down in the lower portion of the site, because her condo is essentially across the street and looks down that view corridor.
I think that was probably the same one that was concerned about
Yes.
the generator noise when we did it last time.
Maybe I.
Wouldn't she be down?
Let me look for a second here. This is so blurry, but am I looking at it upside down?
Yeah, you're looking at upside down.
Okay.
Yeah, here's all of them.
Here's the view corridor down through here. So
Yeah.
it'd
She's
probably
the
be-
end unit on that.
But she's not the end unit, but she's
not
the other
here
end.
across the parking
Yeah.
lot. She's at the across the street on Oliverde and looks down this way.
Yeah.
So she's interested from that point. The people on the other side.
So, hey, Mark, you could look
Yeah.
up there maybe, at the top, you see Oliverde going up off the top of the screen. So
Yes.
she's on the
Yeah,
left side of Oliverde.
She's across
Yes.
the street on Oliverde, not in that some of the things that's a little confusing is when you look at the aerial photo, you can't tell what's garage and what's unit. But there really is just one unit in that building that parallels the freeway.
Should
And
be
that's-
over
Yes,
here somewhere.
exactly.
Yeah, that building closest to us, kind of center, Calle Verde, is actually a parking garage.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, one of
so that's directly across from us. And then as you go down the road, basically like the last, I'll call it, third of the site is the closest condo unit, and it's an end too. And that end really doesn't have windows; it's got bathroom windows, I think, 2 of them. All the other balconies kind of look out towards the rest of the condo project and across the parking lot.
And they all orient in that angle that kind of
Yeah.
is angled. And that's really to kind of segues to one, that woman who's very sophisticated. I don't know if she's an architect or is just involved in architecture. She
She
works
was an
for
architect.
the.
She's an architect, for
Yeah,
home
She
builders.
works for the Emerald Bay Community Association, which is a quasi-governmental
Mhm.
agency that runs Emerald Bay. She was very complimentary of the architecture. Again, protective of her corridor, and asked if we would replace out pine trees that she was concerned how they might grow and how they might be maintained
Very dense
versus
stuff,
what we were happy to do that. And then we also, sensitive to that corridor, and also wanting to break up the mass on that frontage along Ola Verde, we stepped that corner that Stephanie was talking about. So by eliminating that corner unit, we were able to step the building.
Yes.
And now you have a break both at the front. There's a step and very similar step. The middle has a break, and then the end corner. So tried to break the mass that way. But again, no opposition,
Stephanie, can you
no
put the second floor
pushback
on?
about the project, and
Go for 2
but
slides.
still, we made the changes that we, to be responsive to the things that we heard that we thought we could respond to,
The second floor plan.
and we're happy to dig in and talk about any of the details as we go. So I'll just stop there.
Put the second floor plan. So you can
Okay,
see
the only question I've got to start with, Stephanie, where are we at on parking? There's supposed to be a parking study
Yeah, there.
to be determined.
Yeah, so the parking report was prepared and is being reviewed by the city's traffic engineer, just to make sure that the right methodology was used, that we concur with the findings. Based on a cursory review by planning staff, it does, there aren't any red flags, so it is more than likely going to be accepted and determined that it meets the requirements of the city's, parking code.
Okay, so whatever we do, the suggestions will be based on that coming back positive.
Yeah, I should note, we did lose one parking space. We lost one unit. We chose to lose one unit, but we lost one parking space based on OCFA comments on wanting an extra 4 feet around the
Island.
essentially island that they're characterizing in the middle
But
of
they
our
want a
parking.
28-foot minimum wide drive aisle around the
So
island.
if
They're
you look
looking
at
at it
the
as a
site plan-
cul-de-sac,
Oh,
so they wanted that to be 28 feet clear around it.
okay.
So instead of having 3
Yeah.
there, we only have 2 there. But
So their template didn't quite work.
It does for the turning radius, that's what the dash line is, but in addition to that, they can turn. That island could have been bigger, it would fit in their turning radius, but they wanted a minimum of 28 feet just to keep their clearance. So
And we were happy
it
to-
worked.
we were happy to
we lose a
accommodate
spot, but
we're confident that the parking study, we had the capacity to lose one space.
So they're okay with this radius because the dash line goes into the parking spaces?
Yeah, it really does, and it's kind of deceptive because
Oh, that's
they
the
do these-
dimension line.
yeah, it's just a
Okay.
dimension line, it's just the
Got
edge.
I've had the same.
Goes up to the-
There you go.
to the edge.
Peter shows all those dimension lines. and makes
Smart
it look
cars
like-
only parking in those spaces?
Yeah.
We also used the same firm and the actual same engineer that did the previous entitlement, Trissa. So
okay.
we used the same group that was previously approved.
And it's consistent with all your operations, your other projects as well, in
Yeah.
terms of the amount of parking.
Okay. Commissioner McCann, do you have any specific questions for the project team or city staff
I do not.
at this point? Okay. I won't hold you to just, the 10 minutes that the planning commission does. We're going to do it informal. Do the owners want to make any comment or statements in support, or any of your consultants want to
I think we really are here just to answer questions that, the representatives of the church had been listening in on the Zoom calls, and
Okay.
and in the absence of being able to listen in, wanted to sit in. I would say I've enjoyed working with them very much on both of these versions of the project. I know, Pastor, you spoke at Planning Commission for the Artist Project, that the project, was valuable both in terms of what it contributes to the community and how it helps you further your objectives, in terms of master planning as a church. So, otherwise, I think we'll just answer questions about it.
Okay, we'll kind of go through the normal process and close the presentation, open to public comment. Anyone want to comment from the public on this project? So we'll open it to discussion. So now we can just do any questions. The architecture, I think, is certainly compliant and compatible with the city requirements. I still have a different approach to the mechanical wells, that they're right down the view, so you're looking down a 100-foot mechanical well, but that's not something that would ding the project, but I would say it could be a comment that might come up at planning commission. So if you said, well, we don't know the mechanical equipment we're putting up there yet, being the well's relatively deep, it's probably not a great place for the solar exposure. That might be better on west-facing or southwest-facing roofs, if there are. But I am in support of what you've done, and thank you very much for listening to our comments and addressing the comments on from our previous meeting and doing the public outreach. All was a good thing, and it's a good way to avoid lengthy planning commission meetings.
I'm in support of that.
Do you have any questions, or are you
No,
comfortable with what you see, and we can move it along, basically pending the parking study, but even that wouldn't have to come back here, because I almost see that they could squeeze another one in somewhere, shoehorn it in. If
Well, that's just,
it was required.
that could be a condition of the project, that they get a parking
It
study
can,
by-
and that can be something that doesn't have to, I mean,
We realize that if the parking becomes an issue and it required some major redesign, that we'd be back. in
Given
front
our
of it. I
end
don't
stall
think it's-
requirement of 11 feet, I've kind of maximized out what we can get there. I wanted to keep that drop off at the back.
yeah.
You know, so I could fit a stall in there, but then the drop off isn't as great
Okay.
for, you know, so that was could be my backup along there to add a stall, but I mean, I think we're over parked for what's required.
Yeah, so
I'm not
that will
too-
be something that
Yeah.
may be a non-issue.
Well, Chair, I do want to ask you, just so that we can anticipate and be responsive, do you have any thoughts on how the roof might be addressed differently? Because, you know, we are the two-story now, so we can't run the roof, you know, to a peak.
Yeah,
My
and like I say, it's not a deal breaker. It's just, I see it that if you can cluster, I was looking
let's
for
go to the roof.
plan.
Yeah, keep going. It's
It's,
a little bit further. left than the-
Actually, one of the aerials might even be easier.
A 2.2.
We've got, this one long one that runs the entire length of the building.
Yeah.
And if there was a well and then you just blocked it off for a short period of time and started another well, just to break it up.
Yeah, I
a
was
little
looking
bit.
at that. My concern with that was fire department access.
That's certainly an issue,
They would-
and that would trump the aesthetic on it.
We
in
could
most
do it
cases. So,
physically, but then they'd want ladders to go up and over it,
Yeah.
and then we'd be above our 25 foot. So if
keep
ladders
that,
were
keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Let's look, we'll just,
If something comes up, it's,
okay.
it's,
No, it's,
I
no,
mean,
I guess that's why.
these kind of facilities, safety is preeminent, so.
Yeah, I wanted full access for fire all the way around it so they could get easily around the roof.
Yeah, we thought it was a good comment. We looked at it in a couple of different ways, and it always came back. We talked to our fire consultant and the architect, and they were just concerned with fire life safety and also just maintenance access to the equipment.
Yeah, and
there.
I don't know how much equipment you're actually gonna need. I mean, we've got kitchens
Yeah, kitchen
over,
and
over here.
The equipment's clustered.
yeah.
And if it is clustered.
It's a one-to-one, condenser to units, so we'll have
Some
88
condensers up there.
on the roof, but I clustered them. I did return the roof at the ridge back a little bit on some of them,
Yeah.
so that we did get a full peak, a full ridge, so that you will get some views. maybe that could skinny it in a little, so we have a
it
little bit of
could
a
choke it
corridor,
little.
so we
Yeah,
could choke
just
it a little.
something
So I could look at that, and on the really long runs, just pull it back in, so that you have a walkway for fire, but then the roof returns down.
That'd be
So then that would
appreciated.
give a little bit
We
of
can do that, Gloria.
a detail.
Okay, so I'm glad we asked.
From what I hear from,
Yeah, I just want to say, I appreciate the team being responsive to the comments. I think it was a great looking project. It looks very appropriate, and I appreciate you guys doing everything you can to be responsive. And I don't think the roof, I'm okay with the roof well as designed.
yeah, I mean, like I say, it's not a deal breaker, but when you're looking out there, you're gonna have clusters of equipment, and they deteriorate over time and all. So,
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that was a real concern. You could put little screens.
I think, Peter, you look at what you just talked
I'll
about.
look what I talked about,
We'll
just kind of
definitely make a
just
point of
pulling it in a
Take a
little,
look at it.
at least break up that one long run, so that it.
you've got a good planner that you're working with there, so she will make a good presentation and have it all ready for
And I'm not
planning
leaving
commission.
anytime over the next couple
You
of
can't.
months, so.
She's devoting 100% of her time to this project.
There you go. There you go.
I guess I would say that, I appreciate the idea of pulling back the trees in that view corridor, and I'd say to the extent, just
Yeah.
don't need stuff there. Just, maybe screen the generator wall a
Yeah,
little bit.
Yeah,
and
that's
that's it.
we're gonna do low
That's really,
plantings.
to the extent
Yeah.
that there's any vegetation, it's at a lower height just to screen whatever's behind it.
Yeah.
Shrub height.
I agree.
But I'm looking at like that corner where you guys dropped the unit.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you had a tree out from there, it might block. I'd rather see it back 40, 50 feet,
Yeah,
to the left.
And we're gonna
Just err
work-
on the side of keeping that corridor open rather than.
we're gonna work with the association, so, we'll.
And there'll be, I'm sure, minor revisions or suggestions anyway
Yeah.
from the city's landscape architect. He's very good about working with you guys, and it should be fine.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much. Good
Thank
job,
you.
and you got a great team working on it.
Okay, we overwhelmed you with,
Just pure numbers.
What's afraid to vote no?
We all just wanted to get out of the house, that's all.
thank you very much. Nice to see you guys again in person.
Yeah.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Yeah, no problem. Good to
And
see
we
you.
will
Good to see
see you at
everybody.
the next level.
Yeah, no problem.
Materials.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay. I was wondering what all that was about.
Stephanie, thank you.
Wow.
You're welcome, you're welcome.
The joy of having staples and drawing. Already bleeding.
Okay, sure.
That was item 2A.
10 years, I know. I just started here last week.
Oh, really?
It's,
We will now move to item 2B, the Historic Property Preservation Agreement, HPPA 2110H, Schwartz Building, HPPA. And David Carrillo is the planner on this one. So, David?
Yeah, good afternoon. We have Martin Schwartz, the property owner for this one here.
Nice
to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
How you doing? Come on in here. Here we go. Should I go over the Mills Act program briefly? Or do we? Are we
Certainly.
familiar?
No, let's,
No, just go straight to this.
it's so short. Go ahead.
Okay. So, real quick, this is 132 Avenue Del Mar. It's a commercial property in downtown. It was built in 1927. It was listed for its architectural style, Spanish Colonial Revival. It did go through multiple storefront remodels. So what we see there now are some incompatible, non-original awnings, some doors that we'll get into shortly. We do have several building permits too that were pulled that are listed in the staff report. So original use was all commercial and it's now residential on top, right, Martin?
Correct.
And commercial on the bottom. We came up with a work list in collaboration with our consultant GPA. We had a site visit late August with again GPA, city staff, Larry Culbertson from the Historical Society, and the property owners team. And from that, we came up with a list of 23 improvements. We did contact OC tax assessors, and we came up with that annual tax savings. And Martin, you're saying that is correct, or?
It was less than what he sent me today. We
Oh, okay.
assessed this when we bought it, and this was the current rents and what we had. We've released one space, and so he just sent me some new numbers that were a little
less. Okay.
quite a bit less actually than that.
We'll
But
get the correct number back to council. So yeah, we have a total of 23. Bart, do you want me to go through each one individually? We do have some questions on some from the property owners.
Scott, do you want them to go through each one, or have you had a chance to review?
I guess I would prefer they didn't.
Yeah.
But maybe hit the highlights.
The highlights?
Like if there's certain, like the kind of the most impactful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I read them all, so.
You did? Okay. Which one were you questioning?
there are only two that were in question. Item number 7, the metal boxes, those right there, and I doubt those are original. So they're saying if they're non-original to remove them, but the windows are fairly low in the space from the apartment, so the windows are like this low, and they kind of are a little protective. This is how it was built, so I think leaving there is a little bit of a safety measure. I intend to put plants in there and try to, if somebody's running their kids over there, I don't want them to fall out or anything. So that was the
So
other
a
thing.
thought that I had, Bart, was that we can reach out to building and see if there's maybe a building code that they can address through that.
There is, and I know in the past, in situations like that, there's been basically a rail on the inside at the legal rail height, because they are the legal exit, fire exit, and kids can fall out.
Yeah.
And I know on some old hotels and things that have been upgraded, they had to do, that's, building department will definitely address that.
Okay, sounds good.
And then the other one's 21, that's regarding the skylights.
Yeah.
So there's a skylight that's visible from the alley at the rear.
Right there, yeah.
There it is. So the improvement says remove non-original, incompatible skylight on rear elevation, or replace with a new option. Marty, want to state your?
2021.
Yeah, I don't, right, it doesn't leak, and it's clay tile roof. People get up there, are gonna break the tiles and maybe cause more trouble. So I like to leave it, it's barely visible from the alley. But that's the only place you can see it. When you're in the alley in the parking lot, you can see that skylight, so.
Okay, and David, even after an HPPA contract is made, there's still latitude for
To come
Adjustments.
back and
changing the list,
Correct.
and altering the list.
After the initial 10-year term, yeah, we would come out, do the periodic inspection, and then see if we can add more
Okay.
improvements.
Okay.
So this is a new application, not a new 10-year extension of an existing.
This is a brand new. Yeah.
Yeah, so everything else on the list looked good. I can probably get all that done. So I'm counting on doing it all.
Larry, did you have any comments?
Is it my turn?
You're part of the project team, and you guys are making
Yes.
it.
Yeah, Larry Culbertson, Historical Society. I wanted to start out by pointing out how important this building is. This is from the October 24th, 1954 Los Angeles Times. British Countess comes to San Clemente. The Countess of Sandwich of London is a guest of her sister, Mrs. J. Palmerton of 132 Avenida Del Mar.
Wow, that's
Cool.
wonderful. That's so cool. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I think copy that too.
Yeah, this is one of only about 12 historic buildings on Avenida Del Mar, so it's important that we get the rehab right. Someday we'd like to see Avenida Del Mar be another historic district, so hopefully we can get all 12 of those buildings nicely restored, rehabilitated. 132 is architecturally plain, yet it's still attractive. I've always liked that round medallion in the upper center. I didn't see that mentioned in the report, so I think that's a pretty neat feature of that front facade. It combines with the iron window boxes and the striped awnings to give that upper facade quite an interesting look. the awnings should not have that diagonal support. We talked about that when we were on site. The traditional way is to have the cantonary drape, not have a iron bar holding the the awning diagonally out. It'd be nice if we could get that where it should be.
Sure. Talking about the vertical one on the wall?
Yeah, the one that's holding that's underneath the awning.
Oh,
The
yeah,
spear?
There's two.
Yeah,
One and
actually-
two.
Not the spear.
It's coming out.
The bar
holds it
that's
tight,
holding
yeah.
the holding the awning. It's holding it straight.
Like right up here, this
Right.
Oh, on the top
So
edge.
instead of straight, there should be a cantonary.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to keep the structural integrity, you can actually put a cable in there,
Like, that's a good idea.
inside the
Got
an
it.
awning pocket.
Hmm.
You know, just the
A
seam,
cable would be good.
and you don't even see it.
That's very nice.
Makes it look nice and relaxed and not so formal.
Mhm.
The lower facade was also benefit from that striped awning instead of the that solid blue. The two semicircular awnings are strictly against what Henry Lenny says. Don't do those circular ones. So those are really out. I didn't see that.
Yeah,
mentioned in
take
it.
those out.
Are those
He's got a
addressed in the
section.
lists?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
and we'll
that's
take
all.
those
Yeah.
rounded ones out.
So the order of priority of work to be completed has always been problematic over the years. David has done a good job of trying to get the building stabilizing work and most of the visible things, get those in the earlier years, followed by the rear stuff and the concrete in the later years, so that's good. A couple of specific questions on those numbers. Number one was repair any leaks or re-roof when needed. So what is the suggestion? Re-roof or repair?
Which number is that?
Number
Which
one.
item? Number one.
I'm sure this owner's going to do the right thing, but it's nice to know what is it going to be a repair or?
Well, the roof doesn't leak.
Uh-huh.
So the deck in the back, right when I bought it, was leaking all the tenants, and I repaired the deck, so the deck does not leak anymore. It is all fixed. But that was like an emergency, kind of like the tenants are screaming and we're gonna have to pay for all their stuff in their space. I just got in there and had it all, it's resheathed with new plywood, drained it properly, and the Decatex.
I think we can address that by doing an inspection, going out there.
Yeah,
just making sure,
absolutely.
Having a building guy.
Yeah, the main thing was I had to get the leak fixed immediately.
Yeah, number two, remove incompatible gutters and downspouts. So I didn't quite understand, are gutters incompatible? I think they're a good thing for the pedestrians that are walking by. They're big rainfall, you're not gonna get rain coming down all over you. But it seems to me that they're a good thing, so I don't quite understand.
Are those extruded,
I think like aluminum, the aluminum.
okay, I think they're probably looking for the half round, 6-inch half round.
Yeah, half-round copper would be nice.
That would be the Henry Lenny
And also,
go-to.
yeah. Also, the water will splash on the windows when it comes cascading down. It'll go over the
Yeah.
shop. So
So
that's
I'm
a
not-
good thing.
A big fan of removing that gutter either because of exactly what you're saying. It's gonna be a little bit of a mess on the street and splashing, so I was gonna patch it, repaint it, and get that looking good, but that was the goal.
To bring it into the Spanish colonial revival would be a 6-inch half round
Yes,
profile.
right.
And that's what the Lenny guidelines recommend, and hopefully with the finish you don't have to paint it all.
Okay,
Or with copper, you wouldn't have to.
So is that on the
Well,
list?
I've seen copper, and
It's
I've
not on
also
the list.
seen
It's not on the list?
Corrad
To
or
replace
whatever
it.
that's sheet metal that looks like copper.
Yeah.
To discussing, okay, number 23 is
The team's
inspect gutters and
out.
downspouts annually. And
there's
maintain.
another one right above that. There's two different.
Number two, the one we have up here.
What does it say?
Remove incompatible gutters and downspouts due to the design of the roof.
Okay,
Perimeter, that's the one right there, overhang.
so it doesn't say remove and replace, it just says
No, it
remove.
just says remove.
Yeah, I think for building will probably say that it even be a safety hazard if there wasn't a gutter there, so it's definitely remove and
Okay.
replace.
So we can make that change to number 2.
So remove and replace with a 6-inch half round style? Is there a color
Uh,
that we need to specify? Or that just
I'll
needs
have to
be
check the
covered?
guidelines. I think he recommends copper, but, or similar, something like that, is how it's worded.
Like you say, they've got good imitation, looks
Yeah.
pretty good. Number 4, provide a termite wood destroying organism. My problem there is 2023. It seems to me that that should be the first thing an owner would want to do. Get the termite report's going to cost you whatever, $300 or something like that. So you would know what direction you got to go for some of these other things that are even earlier.
Absolutely.
We could flip-flop
Did you
2
get
and
one when
3.
you bought it?
What's that?
Did you get one when you bought
I
it?
went and looked at it, yeah, they said there are signs that termites used to be there, there are none currently.
No active infestations.
No active in the building, they've already done their damage and left.
Yeah, I mean, the way we, and I think David knows this, we like to put stop deterioration ASAP on the
Absolutely.
list.
No, I'm definitely a big fan of that.
Is the suggestion here to move it up to 20?
I think 2 and 3 could be just swapped.
2 and 4?
2 and 4.
2 and 4.
Excuse me. 2 and 4.
Yeah.
The gutters are aesthetic, and the termite is structural.
Right.
And number 7, that last sentence, if documentary evidence suggests they're not original, they should be removed on the window boxes. But there's no pictures, there's no documentary evidence that they were not there. I think they're a nice feature. I'd hate to see them go.
Great, I'm in agreement with you there for sure too.
So should we recommend that we strike that last sentence of number 7?
There's not going to be any evidence anyway. No
Yeah, the
pictures.
only evidence I see there is it looks like it's tube steel rather than wrought iron on the
Yeah.
horizontals. But painted out, and it's second floor, way up there.
It is a item that's reversible, right? It's not.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So we wouldn't be, it could be, we can say it's compatible as well with architecture. So it's compatible,
And-
reversible. We wouldn't have an issue with removing.
And let's see, that's what, number 7?
Yeah.
I'd say they could be repaired and painted and find a, I don't want to go building department requirements, but safety is an issue coming out of those windows. Kids can fall out of those pretty easy. What do you think it is, 24?
I'd have to measure sometime,
I mean-
back in there, yeah, they're right in there, 24 to 30.
Yeah, that's a little low.
It's a little low,
Um,
just figuring out some way to minimize that.
You have enough on that, David?
Yeah.
Okay.
The 13, removing compatible blue fabric awning all the way out to 2026. It just seemed to me like that would help that building a lot, if those blue awning with the stripes.
I'll get the strike, I'd like to replace those too, so I'm fine doing that, we'll find some good awnings that look good there.
I mean, it just seemed like waiting all the way to 2026 was
Which one is this one?
13.
13?
Yeah, I'm not sure those will last that long.
Right, they're pretty done.
But again, the sequence of these, you can come back to the city and say, I'd rather do this year and that next year, and staff
Right,
can
that's that.
review that for its appropriateness and make those changes.
Great. Yeah, I'm gonna do it all sooner than later. I'm gonna try to expedite the next couple of years, try to knock it out 2 or 3 years.
I have a question about number 15. Concrete driveways severely cracked. Replace existing concrete with historically compatible material. What might that be?
I was curious about that too.
Yeah, and that's a good question. Martin was asking that too. We do have some recommendations in the Henry Lenny.
I hope you're not talking about asphalt.
No,
I am.
No,
I don't think that's,
asphalt's not a.
it's not compatible. It's probably that concrete.
This is something I think needs count. When Cliff was here, did you ever meet Cliff?
Yeah.
Stephanie?
Yeah.
Okay.
Of course I know Cliff.
He was working on the alley improvements.
Mhm.
Salesman.
And we want to make sure anything we recommend that they do is compatible with the philosophy of those alley improvements that aren't budgeted yet, but hopefully will happen someday. But it shouldn't add additional cost to you. It might just change a little configuration.
Okay.
So I think that staff needs to research that a little bit more because it hasn't been talked about in a while. And I'm not current on that one. I think there were even lighting plans for those alleys at one time. And some concept drawings, but
They're going to call it a paseo instead of an alley.
Yeah.
You can have
Paseos.
nice little walkways
Yeah.
up each of
It'd
the
be awesome
doors.
if that gets fixed.
and I think that might get some boost in interest if in fact the parking is reduced along Del Mar. That's going to bring more people
On this
filling the parking lots, which is going to make more pedestrians using that area.
Yeah.
Because I think it was starting way up, about 4 blocks above and coming down El Camino, and then down that alley. But this one, you know, maybe council will say, hey, now it's time to finally do that if we're bringing
It
more
is
pedestrians back.
actually very unsafe. There's a lot of good potholes
Yeah.
that people can trip and fall, get hurt in there.
So I
it'd be
leave that up
worthwhile.
to staff to
And
research.
I'm
that
willing
more.
to fix up that parking area that I have, you know, to comply. So I'd like to make it nice back
And
there.
I'm sure Cliff would accept a call for his thoughts on where to find the stuff.
Like the materials.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can do some digging. I know that we've seen it around.
We have it, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Be great.
That's all I had. Historical Society is delighted that we've got an owner who's coming in and making that building.
And so
making
is
that
this,
street.
and so is the design review subcommittee and
Right,
the
nice.
historic.
Frank did a good job. I'd like to do a good job too. That we're all proud of it. That's the goal.
So when we get to it, the stairs would be something that,
There would be
you know, it's
removed
just
areas.
verbal now. But once it gets down on paper, what it is, it might be nice to review.
Yeah.
You're saying back to GRC as a staff.
Yeah, stairs are way up the, I mean,
2029.
and you'll have a bunch of new faces.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
sure.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
How does the safety low sill height issue get caught? I mean,
Building department.
but when and why? If he's just, you know, wire brushing and repainting those window boxes, that's not gonna go to building department.
No, but we can have staff put a flag on it.
Would you guys find it appropriate?
Because
to
they're
add
grandfathered in at the moment. But I think it behooves actually the applicant for his benefit. If somebody falls out of
Oh,
it
yeah, I would
and they
advise the
haven't
owner
brought it up
about
to
that.
code now that they've been notified of the potential. I think it behooves you to
Yeah,
research
safe,
on your own
absolutely.
to make sure
Yep.
that's
I'll
safe.
follow up on it.
Put some cactus in those boxes.
So if that could be another.
That's right.
I'm sorry, what was that?
That they're gonna follow
Well, the
up
problem
on the
is though
safety of
that
those
we put too
windows.
high plants,
Oh,
the
okay,
windows
yeah.
won't
You
open
agreed to follow up.
across
Yeah.
the boxes.
That's
so.
correct. They won't be able
Or
to.
would
Yeah.
would you guys find it appropriate to add language on that item that talks about
Well,
checking in the
is
building?
is it a historic issue that would be? I mean, I'd like to just say, you know, bring things up to code, but that's not part of the HPPA purview. So I think we gotta do it in the minutes of the meeting and
Okay.
I'll make note of it.
Yeah.
Because there are exceptions in the historic building code and all, that there might be relief that says you don't have to do it.
Okay.
But,
Yeah, because I know there's a number of them like that on Del Mar. There's
Oh,
a number.
they're
sure.
all,
You
they're
know,
all
it's
over the
not-
country.
Yeah, all over the country. Right.
Um,
So,
Chair Crandall, if I could
Certainly.
ask a point of clarification. So the property owner did raise some concerns regarding improvement number 21 and his desire to keep that existing skylight. Was that resolved? Was there direction provided on
Well, the fact
that?
it's 10 years off, it's the last one on the item.
May I weigh in on this?
Certainly.
I'm supportive of the applicant's request. I mean, I think the applicant is, undertaking a yeoman's amount of work here over this period. And yeah, he's getting a break, but he's, showing a lot of good faith, and I think that's pretty non-visible. I, for one, own building with clay tile roof, and I don't want anyone up there. So, because they run the risk of doing a lot more damage than what they're solving. So I would be supportive of striking 21.
Luckily, it's in a space they can probably get to it with a cherry picker and not even have to stand on them.
It's on the second level, though, so you could have to get up there.
Yeah, those can go up to 60 feet.
Yeah.
But I think we. Security doors are perfectly paint, and then the roof's got. You could probably pass on that.
Okay.
That's what I'm doing, because,
it can still be addressed.
I mean,
after
in the first 10 years, we haven't been able to bring any historic structure back 100%. But hopefully the following years it does occur as it's descended,
Got it.
because new things will be added, something new each year. So that could be held off on, I think.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
I think the applicant's doing what's in the spirit of the building and what our mission is here and what the Mills Act is there for.
Good job. We'll paint it and clean it up, make it nice. I'll get all the paints approved and everything too.
Okay,
Start
very
to-
good.
Start to
So
go on that.
this would go direct to council?
Yes, and I will
Okay.
say that it's going to be scheduled for December 7th for City Council. Joining us, if you were wondering who this is our new senior planner, John Steinmeier.
Hello, John.
Yes, a lot of-
Welcome.
yeah. So he will be taking it over and preparing the staff report and the presentation to City Council. So he's been taking copious notes. But yes, he'll be David will be passing the baton, so to speak, to John to take that over.
Okay, very
I've
good.
handled many
Where'd you come from?
applications. I spent most of my time in Pasadena,
Okay, very good.
and New York City, working as a planner in design preservation, and a lot of design and preservation. And
Excellent.
current planning and zoning.
Well, Pasadena's a good place. We don't have anything as big as they had there,
Big isn't everything, right?
but love the green and greens.
Oh, yeah. Easy.
Okay, so moving along.
Keep moving forward.
That's it.
Congratulations, and it's always good to see.
Yeah, thanks for
Larry
coming.
here.
This
It's
is
nice to be back.
Yeah.
Is this extra here?
Sure.
Oh, great. I'll take it. I dug around too. I couldn't find much, so
Yeah, it's not much.
this is great.
The only other thing I could find is Minji's in 1994.
Oh, really? Oh, gosh. That's funny.
Martin, I'll work with John to make those changes to the list.
Great.
Send it over to you and then.
Yeah, we'll keep it moving forward. Thank you all very much.
Oh,
Appreciate
you're
it.
welcome.
Thank you.
Do
Thank
this
you.
Here to work with you.
On that building.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, our next item is item
Thank you.
2C, Historic Property Preservation Agreement, HPPA 21209, Casa de Sofia, and David is doing this one also.
Yeah, we have Andy here, property owner present.
Hello.
So this one is quick background. Picture to the right is, I say what, Andy, like 5 years ago?
It might have been a little longer than
A little
that.
longer than
I would
that?
probably say at least 10.
Got it, okay, that's a picture that's provided in the DPR form. It was built 1928.
06.
Yeah.
Yeah, 06. Again, it was listed for its architectural style. It is recommended for removal. I'm sure you guys read that in the DPR form, due to missing Spanish colonial revival elements. So, in reading that, I've been working with the property owners to restore and bring back Spanish colonial revival elements. So they've done many work this year, right? Andy, it was all done this year?
Yes.
Yeah, this whole year, and now the property looks like this.
Now, they recommended, just so we do, they recommended removal, and it's on their state report document. Was it ever removed?
No, it's okay.
So the state didn't do that, and so but it's still on the city's.
Correct.
Okay, great.
So this is, in an effort to keep it on the list. So this is how the home looks now, the duplex building.
Is this a new build type of application?
Yeah, this is a brand new one. Yeah. So again, we visited this site on the same day that we visited the commercial property we just saw. For this one, since the property owner already did a lot of work to the home here, as we see, the list is not as big as the other one. It's only 10 improvements. And when you see the types of improvements, they're also not that major compared to the other one. For this one, since it's residential, the annual tax, estimated annual tax savings is a lot less as well. So we're looking at $3,400. And then, Andy, did you have a specific improvement you wanted to touch on?
I don't think so. I think the list that we've, come up with seems to be, fair and this is kind of a little bit backwards in the fact that I did a lot of the work ahead of time, and I ran the staff waivers through David, and we got together on a lot of, the elements like the roof having the mortar packing done and the two-piece clay tiles and the way they did the stucco to give it the kind of older look to it.
Mm-hmm. So some of the work, just to go over that, it was re-roof before this. It was it had asphalt shingles. Now we have the clay tile. We did some work to the windows. The stucco was repainted. We did a lot of work to the front yard just to make it more visible. So it is, evidently a lot closer to the SCR style, Spanish colonial revival style of architecture. And that's all I have. Andy, you don't have anything more? Andy, that's all I have. And of course, we're including the termite improvement. This is something that City Council, asked staff to include in every Mosaic contract 3 years ago, I think. So it's there. And that concludes our report.
Very good. When you were out there, you had the HRG group there with you?
GPA, yeah.
When they saw this, were they willing to remove that recommendation to be pulled off the historic list? I think it should be documented in the file somewhere. We may not all be here the next time something comes through on it, so it should be amended.
Right. They supported going through this work to keep it on the list. So I can get a memo from GPA that notes that.
Yeah, I think it needs to be in the file and show that we're not approving something that's been flagged as not a historic resource.
Right. And just to add, at some point in time, there is going to be a more updated survey, because that survey that made that initial recommendation, that was back in 2006.
2006.
Right. So it is a little outdated. Again, at some point in time, there will be a new survey done that will reevaluate, all of the current properties, take a look at any improvements that have been done through the years, and so there will be a more official, report that reflects
I'm
that.
thinking that city attorney may look at it and say, we don't want to sign a contract for a property that has this hovering over it, that it was recommended that it wasn't a historic resource. So you get that amendment before the attorney gets a hold of the contract. I think that would be very beneficial.
Yeah. And I don't know if anything necessarily needs to be amended, but I do agree, making sure it's very clearly noted in all of our historic files is very key. Like, that's definitely something that we're going through right now, because all of the historic files were dispersed amongst a lot of different folders. Some of them were hard copies. So, over the years, David and Jonathan, as well as the other planners, and now moving forward, it'll be John, have had the fun task of having to consolidate all of the historic property documents and making sure that we have cleaned up files for each of the properties. So that's certainly something that we can request, make it very clear in writing, so that we can add it to that historic
It
property
could be a
file.
memo of that meeting, that what we see on this walkthrough gives us cause to say this does qualify for a historic resource. And then they can't take that away from him.
Yeah. Yeah, hopefully it'll stay historic for a long time. It's not
Okay.
So are you okay with all the items on the list?
Yes, everything that was revised through the list, that is on there currently, I'm okay with.
Okay.
Yeah, I know the awnings were a little bit of a question mark, because there's the building has lots of windows around every angle, and the fabric awnings are kind of the classic look, but 29 of them of different sizes would look absurd from anyone's
Mark, this is
viewpoint,
the
I
one
think.
I emailed you about asking for feedback on that one the metal awning. Yeah, this is a property.
Okay.
We don't see that here though.
Let's close the presentation. Larry, do you have anything as
Couple
the
comments.
public?
Yeah. Did I understand that, if I understood Stephanie right, that John Steinmeier is now going to be the historic preservation expert for the city?
Yes.
Looks that way.
Oh, right, great. Since it was in the report, I'd like to comment a little bit more about what you were just talking about. This is that 2005 report. In that report, they recommended that 8 historic buildings be added to the list and 5 be delisted. And at that point in time, 1 was added, 104 Avenida Del Mar, and the 5 were not delisted. And I stumbled on that fact years ago, and it bothered me. I brought it up with several planners, and it was just kind of blown off. The city council just decided to do nothing. And this is a good example of, it's a good thing they didn't. It seems to me it's also a good opportunity to contact the other 4 and say, look, we're either going to delist you, or you can do what this individual did and get it officially on the list, take advantage of that NOVAC. Anyway, that's something hopefully John can look into.
Sure.
I'd love to see that list too, if you get a chance.
Yeah, it's page 52 in this. You don't carry a copy of this around with you?
Not on a daily basis, no.
It's a great report, really amazing report. As far as specifics, something I found real strange is the DPR form. As you said, it's recommended for retention on the list, blah, blah, blah. But then it goes on to say, property, this is in the DPR form, the property contains a 2-story commercial building. Oops, did I read the wrong one? Where do you get up to? Here we go, right here. The
2-story multifamily.
The report says, due to alterations and the absence of typical Spanish colonial revival elements, it was recommended for removal. Then it goes right on to say the property contains a 2-story multiple family residence with rectangular plan, designed with elements of Spanish colonial revival style, low pitch, side gable roof, smooth stucco, recessed balcony. In one paragraph it says we would recommend taking it out because it doesn't have these things, and it goes on to explain that it hasn't.
Yeah.
So it's, I mean, and some of the other 4 that were recommended to be removed are horrible, drastic conditions that right up the front yard, so it's real obvious that they don't deserve to be on the list. But this one, I don't know why they were recommending that, really. So I'm glad to see it getting back on the list. A couple of specifics. Those first three things are real easy. I'm sure that the applicant can do those quick and easy. Number 4, restore the balcony corbels using documentary evidence. What are they going to be restored to? What documentary evidence?
This is the image that Audrey from GPA provided.
Oh,
to mimic,
so
yeah.
The corbels be like, okay, good.
Yeah.
The only other thing I thought was number 6, that termite report, as I said in the last one, seems to me that should be the very first thing the owner would want to do. There again, it costs $250, $300. You know right where you stand. But other than that, all the things look great. We're pleased as punch. That's all I got.
Okay, thank you. We will close public comment and start our discussion. I was just looking for... You didn't break this one down into years yet, have you, Dave?
No.
It's a 10-year commitment.
Full list.
Oh yeah, I did.
Page 4. Page 4.
I'm going through it.
Page 4.
There you go. Oh, there we go. So 22, it should be to 32. 31, okay. Yes. And I had that comment. So our starting point is where he sits today. Not 06, okay. When you bought it, was it tenanted?
I did not have it tenanted, but I know through the sales contract it was done. I mean, through the realtor or the previous owner. But I didn't do any reports on my own.
Okay, so...
How long ago was that?
So,
That was just about a year ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
okay, so it may not be... So when you closed escrow, they probably gave you a
Clear termite.
termite
Yeah.
report? Okay, so there it is. So I don't see any reason, just to stay consistent, that couldn't be moved up to, like number 2, everything pulls down, and you've already complied with it, if you've got that termite report.
Sure.
So that would move to number 2.
Yeah, and then just let everything slip down one.
Yeah.
From 6 down. So 6 goes up, 5 becomes 6, 4, 3, 2.
Right.
And I think there's a lot of subtle little things you can do to the landscaping and all that wouldn't be necessarily HPPA, but this will be a very nice addition to the city. Well, not even
It already is. I mean, you've done a
Very nice,
fantastic job.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
focal point. So
Yeah.
it's a big deal taking these on. More than most people know.
Yeah.
So I'm good with it going on to city
I'm good. I just
council,
wanna-
making sure that the paperwork's all in.
Yeah.
I'm good too. I just want to thank him for doing all the, I mean, the before and after pictures are stunning.
Oh,
So,
thank you.
thank you.
And what kind of landscaping are you putting in the area on the curve?
So that's decomposed granite down in that little area
Is
there.
that more for trying to get the parking on there if you need it?
More than anything, it was just, I kind of was going for that Spanish-y look. We put the olive tree in, and we created that little planter box in the front there, which has some of the little mini palms and succulents and things that kind of give it a Spanish feel, I guess. But the decomposed granite was really just a look that I liked and kind of.
Very good.
Well, congratulations. The next step, city council, which should be pretty straightforward, I would hope. I don't see any reason it shouldn't.
Yeah.
And
Hopefully it's
welcome
higher
to
on
the
the
Brotherhood
agenda.
of Historic Property Owners.
Yes. Hopefully, I know on my street there's a few that are in the works, and things are kind of, I can tell just by the streets around me, things are kind of on the going in the right direction, which is nice to see. So,
Well, thank you very much.
all right, thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Stephanie, do we have any new business
No, we
other than
don't.
an introduction? And
And you can step out. Want to step out?
Okay. Yeah.
Next day.
Thank you guys.
any old business? Do you know if there's going to be, I'm going to be out of town like the 28th of November through the 5th of December. City Council still planning a joint meeting with
There is one with all the commission, like all the commissions.
Yeah, it's supposed to be
At
on
the golf
that,
club.
but it hasn't been posted on any of our calendars. We got a letter.
A
at
save the
one time,
date thing.
A save the date, but I haven't, I think it's been forgotten, and hopefully it has.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not aware of that joint meeting.
And I
That's supposed to be
think
on
it's been
this-
forgotten.
Okay.
Did we ever have a meeting for the retired commissioners, planning commissioners? There's supposed to be something in September.
Yeah, there was a presentation in September.
Did it happen?
It did, yeah, it
Okay,
did happen. I don't know how formal it was, though.
I didn't hear, well, it's not, I didn't hear about it because I wanted to thank them all too.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that was, I believe, end of September.
Okay, very good.
So is planning commission happening in person now?
On our
It hasn't
last,
yet.
I think it's supposed to be
The next one
at
is supposed to be.
community center,
Why did you
but
start
we keep
design?
getting pushed back
Why did you start design review and not planning? Seems like planning would have been.
because we don't have video. We don't need
It's
video
much
support.
easier to do the DRC meetings in person. It's actually very little IT work. If anything, it actually, this is less work than having to prepare the Zoom webinars versus anything in the community center. It's a much more involved tech setup.
I see.
Yeah.
And I got to get together with Don Brown. He's got my book that I won at your raffle at your Historical Society meeting.
If I'd known, I would have brought it
There you
forward.
go.
Got another.
Any oral and written communications?
No, staff has not received any
Do
additional
we have
comments.
a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn to the next regularly scheduled design review subcommittee meeting on Wednesdays, November 10th at 4 p.m. in the community room.
I second the motion, and we'll vote on it.
Aye.
Yeah. Aye, and Commissioner Crandall, aye.
Mhm.